All right, we'll do some announcements first. Welcome everybody. No snow today, so that's good. I saw on Wednesday possibly some more.
They say 2 to 3 inches though.
2 to 3, so I think we'll be good, hopefully. If you can't make it in, obviously try to collaborate then during our time on Wednesday. Our schedule is, our assignments are due Wednesday already. And see now, also our exam is a week from today. I'd like to again try to have the exam done here. If you can make it in, that would be awesome. I know there's been issues with the videos from Blackboard, the Blackboard links. I just found out from Jade that she was able to view the entire thing without stopping, that's the issue, using her Blackboard app on her phone.
I just went on my internet and I didn't use like the Blackboard app. I just used the internet and then went to Blackboard and
Okay, and then got that from there. So it seems to work better on your phone. I'm not sure why that is. But what I'm going to plan to do until I get my YouTube page is to email you the videos, the link right in the email. And I think that will work better than going to Blackboard and trying to view it from there. So I want to try it, so I'll ask on Wednesday then, how did it go? See if this is working. So let me know that. Also, for Chapter 3, I did have, or made available, 3 points for extra credit. You don't have to do this. I would like you to do it though, because it's just more practice with Excel. And it's the 25-point problem using the Excel program to answer the least squares regression type problems. So basically what I would like from you is on one worksheet have the RSQ, and we talked about that on last week. It's simply a formula found in statistics. So under the formula tab, under more functions, statistical, you'll find the RSQ, the slope, and intercept. Those are the 3 formulas that you need for least squares regression. And Sam and Jade, if you weren't here, all it asks for, I'm just going down to R squared, is what are the y's and what are the x's. What are the y's? The y's is always the cost, the dollar amount. The x's are always the observations. Number of moves, number of parts, number of hours. So just select with your mouse the y's. Oops. Oops. I didn't do that. Sorry. Back up. Abort. RSQ, the y's. And then the x's. And it should give you a number. And do that for the slope and intercept. In addition, what I'd like from you for the 3 points is to insert a chart, a scatter graph chart, plotting the points. Once you have the points, then add a trend line to that chart. You can also increase or add axis labels, axis titles, and also on the trend line, if you click on your left mouse on the right arrow here, you can also do more options. And one of them is to, and I didn't do this right, you got to click on the chart itself. Plus, trend line, more options. You can go backward 100. what that'll do is get the trend line out to the 0 point. So if I'm going too fast, just look at the video on your phone hopefully, or via the email. And guys, help me out here. Oh, display equation on the chart. So turn that on. Turn the equation on so you can see the slope, which is the 17 here. You can see the y-intercept, which is the 1410 number. Where does it cross the 0 point? Now, for the 3 points, you have to do that twice. Once with all the data, and then number 2 with the outlier excluded. What is the outlier? It's that first observation. So on problem 26, or not 26, 86, how about 68? We'll get there eventually. Problem 68 on page 144, observation number 1 is excluded for question 4. So to get the 3 points, you got to have 2 worksheets. One with all the data, and the second worksheet without that first one. So once you got the first worksheet, just copy it over and then remove that first observation. Okay? Any thoughts? Sam, Jade, you all right? Clear as mud? Ruby, how you doing? Oh, caught her off guard. Okay, well, excellent. All right, for today then I want to start with this problem. Problem 62, page 140. I'm not sure if I'm going to do the whole problem, but I want to kind of lay it out, so to speak. So in your packet, your problem packet, there should be this template. We have 2 observations. One at 120 hours. The second observation is at 150. At that point, it has a series of costs for each level of output. So, for instance, if we're at the budgeted 120-hour level of output, these are our costs: 2,500, 12, 700, 1,200, 24. If we go to the 150 level of output, well, some don't change, right? Some do change. And our first task with these 2 numbers is to identify which one's fixed and which one's variable and which one is mixed. So, I always do which number is fixed in behavior. Remember, chapter 3 is looking at our numbers, analyzing our numbers to see which ones behave a certain way. So, looking at the 2 columns, which numbers are fixed?
Senior accountant.
Senior accountant is fixed.
Office assistant also fixed.
Good. And
Depreciation.
appreciation. So we're just looking at the 2 numbers. If they don't change in total, that's our definition of fixed cost. If they don't change, they must be fixed in behavior, no matter what the output is.
There's offices as
Oh.
well.
Okay, see? Excellent. Oh, there's one more.
Registration, but
Yeah.
I wasn't sure that one, especially that one.
Geez, I'm slow on the tip here today. Good. Now, next we have to decide which one is variable and which one is mixed. To do that, remember the definition of a variable cost. The cost per unit I'm gonna say driver is constant. The unit cost is the one that's constant. And please know that definition for the multiple choice question on the exam. How do I know when it is a variable cost? When my variable cost, when my cost per unit or driver is the same, So what we'll need to do this cost per unit or per driver is take the cost on top and divide it by the corresponding level of activity, the driver amount. If that cost per driver amount is the same, I know it's variable then, right? So, looking at these, I'm simply going to take a division. 700 divided by 120. 5.83. If I do the same thing over on the right, 850 divided by 150, it is 5.67. Don't match, right? So in this case, that has to be a mix. It doesn't fit either the variable definition nor does it fit the fixed definition. The third choice has to be mixed. Going to the next cost item, consulting, 1,200 divided by 120, 1,500 divided by 150. And you have to use a calculator, right? It's what? I think I heard it. Holly, 10 per hour or driver, right? This is also what? 10 per driver. So, same number, right? That fits what definition then? Variable. So remember, why are we doing this? Why do I need to know my cost of reviews? Why are we doing chapter 3? Because it's in the syllabus? No. Why are we doing it? Forecasting, budgeting, exactly. I need to know how each cost behaves in order to forecast it for our planning process for next year. Why am I doing this planning process? Why do so many small companies not do it?
They can't afford to.
They can't afford to, they don't have the time to, right? They don't understand cost behavior. So, why am I doing it? Why is it important that we do it?
If you need more, like labor, more help in
Yes,
manufacturing.
yes. It's a control feature, right? And planning process. The control comes in where I'm going to compare it to the actual activity. When the year comes around next year and I compare it to my budget and see how I did with my actual, then I could see if there's any problems much more quicker. So that's the goal here, is to find out where we have problems. We have two more. Quickly, we'll just do 905 divided by 120, 1100 divided by 150. Go down to the bottom one, utilities, 332 divided by 120, 365 divided by 150. Can someone help me with those numbers? Starting with supplies here on the left.
7.54.
7,
0.54.
and the other one, Diane?
7.33.
Not the same, so what must it be? Mixed, right? Good. And then finally, the last one,
2.77
2.77.
and 2.43.
Not the same, so that one too is mixed. So what we just did was classify. Number one, for problem 62, we classified the cost as fixed, variable, or mixed. Now, the problem then wants us for question part 2 is to separate. Now, I'm not going to do all of them. I'm just going to do one. So the one I'm going to pick is our first mixed cost, which was, yeah, the subscriptions. This will give us some practice with the high-low method. They want us to use the high-low method now, which is one of our techniques to separate a mixed cost into its fixed part and its variable part. So we have the high-low already. 150 is the high level, 120 is the low level. So we're going to go right to step 2 of that process. We're going to take the high cost, 850, minus the low cost, 700. This is step 2 of the high-low method. Simply coming up with the what? What rate am I coming up with here? I just put rate there for a reason. Variable. The variable rate is what I'm coming up with here. So I have what? 150 divided by 30, which is what? $5. $5 is our variable rate. How are we doing? Okay. That's step 2. What's step 3?
Like the equation.
Not quite. We got to figure out. We got the variable now. We got to get what? What's
Of the variable cost, the fixed cost.
the fixed cost we got to get? Right. Excellent. So how do I do that? Fixed cost equals what? Something minus something.
Total cost minus variable cost?
Very good. Excellent, Therese. Total cost minus variable cost. I'm going to pick the high level. 850 is our total cost at the high level. And the variable cost we can write as an equation, an algebraic equation, using our variable rate, $5 times x, which in this case, x is 150. Make sure when you're computing the fixed cost that the activity level matches the total cost level. 150 is to the 850. I could have used the 700 and the 120 also in this equation, and it should work. So I multiply that out. 850 and 5 times 150 is 750. Excellent. So my fixed cost must be $100. So I want to identify our two answers. Here. Here. Gets kind of messy otherwise. using the high-low method. Wow. Are you warmed up now? Does that look good? Pretty exciting stuff. I like this. Now we can do the same thing for the other two, right? But there's other fish to fry today. So I'll put the answer out there for you to look at later. If you want to look at the notes from today, it's going to be in that PDF file. But what I want to do is go to the next step. The next question is, okay, I want to know a formula. I want to know my total cost formula. So, I have laid out here two columns, a fixed column and a variable column. What was our senior cost, our senior accountant cost? It was a salary, 2,500, right?
Yeah.
And our office assistant, 1,000?
1,200.
1,200. Internet software, we just got done with it. What part is fixed? I heard it. 100, good, Jay, thank you. But what was the variable part? 5. So please put the 5 on the variable column. Okay? Morning. On the consulting, what did we find out? It was all variable, right? At how much? And there was no fixed, right? Depreciation was all fixed at we can't do supplies because that's one of them we didn't do. So I'm going to put a question mark here for now. Question mark here for now. I'll add that later. Admin was 500, right? Or was that the red?
Rent was 2,000.
And I don't know the utilities yet. That's it. You add up the columns, right? Add up all the fixed costs, add up all the variable rates, and you come up with an equation, and at that point we can make a prediction, right? What will the operation cost be at 140 hours instead of the 150 or the 120? It's trying to get you into that budget process that we can now do what if. What if our hours were 140? What should our cost be? At the hour 140 next month, we compare them to the actuals and see which number's off. Which number is not where it should be. So that's the goal with this prediction process that we're doing. What do you think? Now, you've got to think this is better than the intermediate. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
you just have to. You just have to. I tease Judy a lot. She likes it.
I
Okay?
mean, it's not too bad.
No.
but
It's too formal to me. It's too formal. This is fun with numbers. How can you go wrong?
That's true.
All right. What's next? On page 100 of your book, 101, they talk about why least squares regression is a better model to use. And why it's better to use than high-low method. The key is it uses all points. Remember our Excel program? We're using all data points, not just the one. So that's the biggest advantage for that. Also be aware the author feels that the least squares is the more complex of the two. So I'm just showing you this just because of the multiple choice questions you're going to see. It's easy because of Excel. It doesn't take long because we have Excel now. But this was a big, very difficult process before Excel.
Before technology.
Before technology, exactly. So that's just mentioned here. Also, when you take statistics, and if you go on, do you take statistics now? You can, and transfer. If you are going to a 4-year program, you will be taking statistics. It talks about this result. These line deviations are squared, and what they're trying to show is this. What is happening in Excel behind the scenes is that it's trying to fit this line so the distance is the shortest possible for all points. That's what's happening behind the scenes, trying to figure out where that line will give us the shortest distance. Once it has the distance, the shortest distance, that's the line of best fit. And that's why least squares regression is the most accurate of the three. So just kind of, it's not really required for the test, but understand what least squares regression is doing for you. Trying to get that shortest distance. What is meant by an outlier?
Way outside of the average or normal?
Not normal. Right. Not normal. My wife says I'm an accountant, I'm an outlier. Not normal, right? So that is what I need you to know. It's not a normal observation. So should we include it in our computations? And the answer is no, right? Because it's an unusual occurrence. And if we did include it, it would create a formula that is not as accurate, right? It's not a good predictor then of what we're trying to do. So know what an outlier is for the exam. Let's do a pretest here quick before we get on to our new topic. Ruby, since you're out in virtual land, you get the first question. Do you have this, I hope, handout? You don't have to have it. Can you answer question 1? Should I show it to you? It might help you answer the question. A mixed cost has which of the following components? A, B, or C, or D? At least it doesn't have none of the above. Ruby, which one do you think? Or do you want to use a lifeline? Don't they do this in, what's that show? Yeah. Ask the audience? Should I ask the audience? Oh, she said B. Yeah, I agree. Excellent. Thank you, Ruby. Sam, how about question 2?
Um,
Yeah, very good. Total cost, right? That's what we're trying to predict, is what our total cost will be at different levels of production. Excellent. The poly, 3. What is V? Kind of a tricky one.
slope.
Which one? Slope, yeah. Very good, B. Excellent. Slope is the variable rate. Excellent. Diane. I love this question. I
Yeah,
simply
didn't
love this
include that
one.
one. I left blank.
This is how we could do this in a multiple choice question very easily. We're looking at variable overhead, right? In total, it behaves a certain way, and in per unit, it behaves a certain way. Let's start with in
Per
total.
unit was probably,
Let's start with this column.
okay,
This variable cost change in total.
yes,
So then we're down to these two,
yeah,
okay? Per unit, what is it, does it change?
no,
No, so it has to be my answer.
that would be D.
D. Is that what you were thinking? Right? That what you were, okay, good, excellent. So here in a Word format, I can ask this question like this, variable, very excellent. Austin, how about fixed cost now? Does it change in total? No.
No.
So it's gotta be these, one of these two. So you got a 50-50 now. Per unit, does it change?
Yes, it does.
That's awesome, that's great. It changed in inverse relationship. If I produce more, what does my cost per unit do? Goes down, right? Inverse relationship. Think of PepsiCo, the Pepsi example. They sold a lot more product and their cost per unit dropped significantly. And they could still make money at 5 cents a bottle. Don't you wish we could still do that now? 5 cents?
They'll go out of business in within the first year.
All right, Jade, you're up. 6.
Would it be A?
I don't like A because of this. The variable cost per unit does not change, right? If it's a true variable cost, so I don't like A. I don't even know what the answer is. I'm hoping you can find it for me. I can't read, I don't have my glasses, so I'm relying on you guys.
B? Yeah.
I don't like B
No? Okay.
because a fixed cost per unit will not increase if my activity level increases. It's an inverse relationship. It goes actually down. So it's got to be the C work?
Total cost will increase
Yes.
and fixed cost, yeah.
Oh, that's a play on words here. What is meant by total cost? This is a tough question. What is meant by total cost? Both fixed and variable.
Yes.
So if my activity level goes up, right, my fixed costs don't change, but what does change?
That cost will be-
My variable cost total changes, right, in total. So this is tricky. This is like the test. Okay? What do you think? How about D?
cost per
Yeah,
unit part of it.
this is what makes it false, right?
Yeah.
The variable cost per unit does not change if my activity level doesn't change or increases. So it has to be C then. I like this question. That one's cool. Hashtag awesome. That one I like. It's not easy. Makes you think, doesn't it not?
Yes.
Okay? Michelle.
Okay, well, it's not A.
It's not A. No.
C.
The method does not detect if the cost behavior is non-linear.
So the high-low activity might be misrepresented, so that's why I'm eliminating B.
Yep, I don't think it's B. Because that could be all are true except. I think this is true. It won't detect if the behavior is nonlinear. In other words, a curve in the line. Because it only has 2 points, it can only be straight. So I think the answer is
D.
B. High-low is easy, not complex. Which one is complex, as according to the author?
The
Least squares. The least squares is the one that's more complex, right? So D, in this case, why is it false? Because the high-low method is easy, not complex. Now, Michelle, you would have been right had this said, this method does detect nonlinear. And it can't because you only have 2 points. Now, scatter graph could, right?
yeah.
It could have plot the points and see a nonlinear curve to it or a non-straight line. Scatter graph could. This problem is very similar to what we just did. You have 2 budget numbers, April and May, or March, April and May, come up March and April, and 2 activity levels. To get the activity level, you have to divide by the selling price. So this is 3,000 units, and this is 5,000 units. $3,000 and $5,000. Looking at the costs, this actually was a test problem back in the old days before this textbook. Looking at our costs, starting with cost of goods sold, which one is fixed? Which ones are fixed? Is cost of goods sold fixed? No, because it changes, right? Between the 2 columns. Is advertising fixed?
Yes.
Yes. So this was a test question many moons ago. I want you to figure out which ones are fixed, which ones are variable, which ones are mixed. The other fixed are right here, depreciation, administration costs. I think that's it. To identify the variable next, right? I take the cost divided by the activity level. Cost divided by the activity level. What's the definition of variable? Cost per unit is what? cost per unit is the same, right? What is the number? So what must it be then? Variable. Thank you. Yes. This is a variable cost. You do the same thing for the others. I think it's $1.12, right? So for utilities, is that variable? I've got 120 and 112. So what must it be then? Mix. It's 109 or something like that. So I'm looking at the 109. I'm looking at the 80 cents. And the answer is not the same, has to be what? Mixed again. And the other one also is mixed. Because all we're doing is dropping the 0. So instead of $1.09, it'd be like 10 cents. Instead of 80 cents, it would be 80 cents. Right? So that's the identification, again, for this particular problem. And like our other problem, problem 62, at that point, we got to use the high-low method then to separate the mixed cost. So what I'll do for this one also is put the answer key out to show you the computations of how I got to the total cost formula. So are you confident now you can pick out which costs are variable, which ones are fixed, which ones are mixed? That's the goal here. Okay. On the test, I also could give you this. This is in your packet, please. A series of numbers with titles attached to them. R squared, number of observations, X coefficients, degrees of freedom. They're just statistical computations, standard of error. Of these numbers, of the 6 numbers, which one is the total fixed cost? Catherine, what is defined here on our statistical equations? Do you know which ones are fixed costs? No.
Not really, no.
Okay, that's fine. Walter, what do you think?
Maybe the constant.
Yes, it is. But what's the word I want you to use, though? Intercept. Intercept is our fixed cost. Yep. So the 5,800 here is the y-intercept. Catherine, at 0, at the 0 point, where my line hits that 0 point, that's the fixed cost. What's the variable cost then? Using the words to help Liz? What word says variable all over it? Starts with the letter S. Slope. Very good. You got her. Awesome. 1.902. Slope is our X, right? Or our variable rate. Now that we know A and B, we can write up an equation, right? Total cost equals our fixed cost plus our variable cost, which can be rewritten as 5,800 plus 1.902 times X is equal to TC, or in statistics that's known as Y. Y. What am I trying to predict? My total cost is what I'm trying to predict. That is my Y. Before I get to the next question, what is my independent variable? You'll be asked that also on the test. What number in my equation here, what is my independent variable? Tom spilled the beans. Tom said X. Is that right? Is he right? Yes. So please mark X as your independent variable. Kershaw, which is my dependent then? Y. Excellent. Dependent variable. Please know those two terms. It's an easy multiple choice question. 3 points a pop. Don't get them backwards. That happens sometimes. Teresa, what is the coefficient of determination? Letter D. Of these numbers, which one is the coefficient of determination?
Not sure.
She's using a lifeline. Which one is it?
Other guess would be the reason for
No.
Okay.
No. It's our other statistical equation, which is what? R squared is our goodness, our coefficient of determination. So I'm going to put R squared here, right? It was 0.89 something. 24. How good is that number?
Isn't like 90 above? It's good.
90 or above is what we're looking for. It's like A, B, C, D, you know, and in class. 90% or above is good. And you'll see this when you do the R squared in your problem, in your 25-point problem, your extra credit. You'll look at that R squared and it'll give you a percent or a number, right? 89 something or whatever it is. And you'll see how this percent will change when we exclude the outlier. Okay? So this is pretty good. So what does this mean? It means how good is X in predicting Y? How good is X, the independent variable, in predicting Y? Is it the machine hours? Is that a good measurement to predict utility costs? Is number of moves on a fork truck a good predictor on predicting the material handling costs? That's what the R squared means. and then we're supposed to put 30 in for X. Let's do that. Y equals 5,800 plus, oops. What's my variable rate?
1.902.
Ah. I'm really getting messy. Times X, which is 30. I think my calculator says is that right? This is my prediction of what? What are we predicting here? I think it's total employee cost, right?
Yeah.
If I have 30 employees, my prediction is I'm going to have $5,857 of cost. And that's what the formula is there for. And then I'm going to compare this to the actual. So if the actual number comes in at $10,000, you as the manager would do what?
Panic?
Panic, right? It's double, almost double what it should be. What's your job then as a cost accountant?
You figure out why it happened.
Why it happened, right? And then what else do we have to do? Yell at the person that caused it?
Yep.
Well, that might be, no, you want to encourage, right? And motivate them to do something
Better job.
different, right? That's how you're supposed to speak. And also, what we always have to be careful of, because what's the person that you're motivating, changing their behavior, going to say to you?
What do you know? So then, that would be.
Not doing this job.
Have no clue. You're not here, right? You're in the office, how can you tell? But what are they gonna question? They're gonna question my fixed cost amount. They're gonna question my variable cost amount. Are those really good numbers? And you should always have that in the back of your head. These are predictions, they're not guarantees, right? We think they're pretty good because the goodness of fit says they're pretty good, right? We should be pretty confident. We also are using a lot of history, right? Hopefully, many observations, so we should be pretty confident with this prediction. But again, whenever you question somebody, it's always nice, it's always great when they're doing well, right? But when you're questioning them on not doing well, that's when the red, they'll kick back on you a little bit. So be careful. Accountants have a bad reputation already. All right, let's stop here. We'll take our first break. I'm going to save this next problem for Wednesday, and I want to get to our next topic, which is variable versus absorption income statements. So we're kind of going back to intermediate a little bit. The last section of chapter 3 is to do two different types of income statements. One is called a variable income statement, and the second one is called the absorption income statement. It's in your textbook. There's only a couple pages, page 105 to 110. They show some good examples, but I also want to talk about the difference in incomes between the two, and that's where I have this phantom profits. So I'll show you where that occurs and why it occurs. So looking at definitions, starting on page 105. Lots of blue there, guys. Know the difference, obviously, for the multiple choice questions between the two statements. Absorption is Judy's statement. Full cost statement. Gap approved statement. Absorption has 4 parts to it. Going through work in process inventory that we learned about in chapter 2. Also, the 4 parts are needed for our cost per unit, like we talked about in chapter 2. That is absorption. Variable, on the other hand, excludes one of the parts. Still has materials, still has labor, and then only has the variable overhead. The fixed overhead is reported elsewhere as a period expense, not inventory. Does everybody understand when I say not inventory, what does that mean? When I say the word not inventory. It's not part of product cost. So it's not going through what account? When I say not inventory. Work in process, right. When I say it's not inventoried, not in WIP. Work in process inventory. Not in finished goods, right? Not in cost of goods sold. So where is it reported then? It's below margin. So this is reported below gross margin. With the selling and admin expenses. Now, who uses a variable costing or statement? Internal only. So we can't give this statement to the IRS. We can't give this statement to the bank. It's not allowed. It's not GAAP approved. So this is a purely internal management report. And the reason being is manager control. Fixed overhead costs are not controllable in most cases by managers. Think about when you're a new manager for this company, that building, those equipment purchases were done 10, 20 years ago. So why judge me on that cost? They only want to be judged on costs that they can control. And that's why this word control here is variable cost, material, labor, and variable overhead, I have some control over. So that's why this report is used internally only. So the book talks about that difference. There is a chart, here it is. This is on page something. I hope. Page 105, actually. Shows the difference between the two. We'll show that difference in our problems shortly. You can see where fixed overhead is. It's with the selling and admin, right? Under the variable income statement. That's the difference. That's the only difference. All right. So, The book then has us do some inventory computations between absorption and variable. Again, 4 parts under absorption, under absorption, 3 parts under variable. This is really simple, guys. This is not difficult. You're simply adding up the cost per units. Example 6 is our first computations. Page 106. They already have the cost in a per unit number. So under absorption, if I add up the 4, the cost per unit is $225. If I did the variable, it's only $200 per unit. That's it. That's all we have to do. They do show a small computation on computing the ending inventory units. So it's beginning plus production minus sold gives us our ending. Please know that also for the test. How do I compute my ending inventory in units? Beginning plus produced minus sold gives us our ending inventory. A very simple computation. We already did this back in Accounting 1, that kind of computation. And we take that 2,000 times the 225 or the 2,000 times the 200, depending on what report we're doing. You'll have lots of practice with this, guys. I'm not worried about this at all. Isn't this a nice picture, visually cool? 4 parts, 3 parts. Let's try problem 52. No. Sorry, guys. I want to do the statement. 52 is too easy. We might come back to that on Wednesday if we have time. 54. Let's do 54. Because we can practice this absorption variable cost per unit here. 54. 136. Okay, units produced. Oh, who are we dealing with? I can't even read this. Dealing company expects to sell 28,700 units at $32. Right? Am I right so far?
Yep.
Okay. They produced 30,000. Awesome. And they came up with these costs per units: $9.95, $2.75, $1.65, and $2.50. There's some variable selling and fixed selling and fixed admin. And that says the unit cost was based on 30,000 units produced, the fixed unit cost. Calculate the cost per unit using absorption, cost per unit using variable. Compute the income for both methods, and that's it. So I do have page 1 and page 2, which is the actual income statement, both of them. So let's do part 1, cost per unit. Again, pretty straightforward. The 3-part, the 4-part, right? And we're just going to put the amounts down. $9.95 for direct materials. Direct labor was $2.75, correct? Variable overhead is 165. Thank you, Michelle. And then our fixed overhead is 250. So on the test, you'll be asked to do this computation, right? Come up with a variable cost per unit, come up with an absorption cost per unit. We total it up. Catherine, you have the amount? Okay. Somebody have the variable?
1685. Or 1435.
14,
35.
35 for variable. Catherine?
And 1685 for absorption.
How many units do I have in ending inventory? Do we have any beginning? I don't think it is. There isn't there. So beginning is 0. What do I have?
30,000.
30,000 for produce.
So 20,700. We are left with 1,300.
28,700. We're left with
1,300.
perfect. So if the question on the test is, what is the how did I get that number? The value of ending inventory, what do we need to do? If the question is the value of ending inventory,
Multiply the 1,300 by.
yep, by their respective costs, very good, excellent. So if I multiply those out, Michelle, can you give me the absorption amount?
21,905.
So this is the value of ending inventory. And E, can you give me the other one for variable?
Yeah. $18,655.
18,655 is also the value under the variable, right? Variable statement. Okay, where does the, doesn't matter which one, where does the 21,905 or 18,655, what statement does that, a number show on? This is your intermediate test, by the way. What statement does that amount show on? We only got two, income and balance sheet. Not on my income. It's gotta be balance sheet, right? So when we talk about inventory, right? What is inventory?
It's an asset.
Okay, you were scaring me there for a second. Okay, good. Asset. What kind of asset?
Current.
Current, very good. What is the name of this asset? I know it's inventory, but what's in front of the word inventory?
And, no,
She's, Michelle's quote, yes, finished goods is what I was looking for, or merchandise inventory, like Michelle said. Why would it not be merchandise inventory though? Because we're a manufacturer. As a manufacturer, what do we call it? We call it finished goods inventory. If we were Walmart, Michelle would be right. It'd be merchandise inventory. So this is, these two numbers is the finished goods inventory amount. GAAP statements have to have what number on it? GAAP requires the 21905 to be on it, right? Absorption. Very good. All right, guys, here we go. Intermediate 101, here we go. 28,700 units sold, right? What's on an income statement? Always sold units, not produced. 28,700, what do we sell them for? $32. $32.
918,400.
Thank you, Michelle. And we can put that number down here also, right? Does that ever change? Nope. This will be the last problem today. Unless we want to do more. We can. All right, cost of goods sold. Same number, guys. We sold 28,700 units times what number? 1685 big. Do you have the amount?
$482,595.
483,595.
595.
Austin, how do I get my margin then?
Subtract sales from cost of goods sold.
Or subtract cost of goods sold from sales, right? Excellent, excellent. And does somebody have that?
434,805.
800 and what? Excellent, excellent. The biggest number on the income statement is that margin number. Why? Banks look at it. Management accountants look at it. Why is that such an important number? It's our profit that we make on our product that we're making, right?
Yeah.
That's why we're here. If that number is falling month to month, I'd be freaking out, right? So would the bank. They'd be questioning, what are you doing to ride this ship, right? Excellent. Let's finish the absorption since I don't want to go back and forth, back and forth. 2.5 was the variable, right? Selling? Oh, $2. You tell me if I'm wrong here, guys. See, I have a great excuse. I don't have my glasses. Right? Those three numbers? 57.4, I think. 65.5, 22.31. How much do I get when I add those up? It's like 300,000 something.
353,900.
That was stereo. That was awesome. 353,900. And then Michelle, what do you have for net profit? Operating income?
80,905.
per gap, right? That's what GAP wants to see is 80,905. That's what you pay your taxes on. The IRS is looking for that number also. 80,905. Let's go down to the variable statement. Little different format, little different subtotals, especially right here. Instead of gross margin, what's the subtotal now? Contribution margin. Again, this helps to identify that it is a variable statement, that it is a non-GAAP statement, okay? We still have the same 28,700, but what am I multiplying by this time? The 1435, Tom, and what do I get?
401,845.
401?
411. 411. 411,845.
8.
45.
My sight and hearing are going, thank you. Excellent. And then we're putting our variable, right? Selling is up here. Again, we're using the 28.7. Units sold times 2 gives us 57.4, which gives us 469,245 as our total variable expense. Can someone audit me on that?
That's right.
Diane says good. Diane, what's my margin?
My fingers aren't working.
Okay.
I get there. 449,155. 449,155.
Are we good so far? Everybody agrees? I'm going to skip the fixed manufacturing, but I want to get the fixed selling and admin. 65.5. And 231. But this is what I want for the, I'm going to put this in blue. 30,000 times 250. And I'm going to put a question mark. You should be questioning me now. Why did we use 30 and not 28.7? Where's the 30 coming from? Produced, right? Remember, I'm assigning my overhead cost on every unit produced at 250, so I need to expense all of it, not just the units that were sold. So we're at 75,000, is that correct? Here, for our fixed manufacturing overhead. The exam will focus on this computation quite heavily. So I want you to know that it's based on units produced. Now Gary, you just told me it's on an income statement, it's always sold units with one exception, and here it is, units produced. It's the only time. This is why it's GAAP, it's not GAAP compliant, right? GAAP says you can't do this. It's done internally. That's why we can get away with it. Don't forget that, please. What's my total?
871,500.
And our profit here?
77,655.
We did 2 statements in what? About 10 minutes. By hand. Good job, guys. Watch the subtotal, right? Gross margin versus contribution margin. You'll be doing this on your See Now problems, right? Also know where that fixed cost is. Where is my fixed manufacturing overhead cost on the absorption statement? Where is it? Where's my fixed manufacturing overhead?
Cost of goods sold.
Very good, Jade. Excellent. Cost of goods sold. Where's my fixed manufacturing overhead on this variable statement? Right there. Do both statements have it? Yes, they both have it in, right? They both have it in. Now I started this conversation with phantom profits. Please take the difference between the absorption profit of 80,905, 77,655. What do you get?
3,250.
I love doing this lesson around Halloween. This is considered a phantom profit. Why is that? Because I'm containing my cost. One of my costs are not fully expensed. Which cost did we say is not fully expensed between the two statements? The fixed, right? Remember we took 30,000 times 250 on the variable statement? And in reality, what did we do on the cost of goods sold? Jade said the fixed was in the cost of goods sold. We only took $2.50 times what? 28,700 units. So in reality, where is my fixed overhead? It's being kept in inventory rather than being expensed. So guess what? What's the difference between sale units and produced? I had 30,000 produced. I had 28,700 units. 1,300 times, what's my fixed overhead rate? It's in the book. Cost per fixed overhead. 250. Does that equal 3,250? I hope it does, because I told you everything wrong up to that point.
Yep.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so could I have you turn to page 109? Even if you're doing something right now, please turn to page 109. There are questions on this. Exhibit 3.14. Well, it's coming up, isn't it? Pi Day. Pi Day's coming up. 3.14, March 14th. Anybody born on Pi Day? I'm getting sidetracked now with numbers. How fun.
My son.
Your son is born on Pi Day?
No,
I wish I-
I'm taking to my son for a Pi Day event
Oh.
at Appleton.
Really? Oh, that's cool.
He's a scout.
Gotcha. Cool. Pi Day.
So does it mean we get
Figure
five?
What is pi used for? It's to compute the length of the hypotenuse, isn't it? Google it. Let me know. It's used for something, I forget. For a triangle? Huh?
For circles.
Oh, it's for circles. Oh, geez, I should have known that. Thanks, Kershaw. You saved me. Thank you. What about a circle?
Diameter.
Diameter. Very good. Thank you. Pi times what? Yeah, I know the number. 3.147 blah blah blah. Times what?
2 pi
The diameter or the radius?
radius.
I think it's the
Diameter.
radius. Diameter? One of those two.
Radius squared
No,
multiplied
radius.
pi.
Radius squared times pi gives you the circumference. Okay? I had to use it once in my career. You know the shop in the mall, there's the Salvation Army kettle, the big one
Yeah.
in the mall, and I had to figure out the circumference of that kettle so that we would lay it flat on a sheet of metal so that when they rolled it, it would come out perfectly. So we made, the company that I work for made that kettle many years ago. Anyway, phantom profits. Where was I going with this now?
Not sure.
Oh, yes, 3.14 exhibits, thank you.
Started out with Halloween.
You guys distracted me. You need to know this for the test. When production is greater than sales, which statement is going to give you the larger profit? When production is greater than sales. Which income is larger? Absorption. Is that not what we have in this situation? We had 30,000 units produced. How many did we sell? We only sold 28.7. Right? Which income is larger? Absorption. Now, we can also say when sold is greater than produced, variable is larger. Variable income is larger than absorption. Right? And what's the third one? When sales equal production, both are equal. Right? Both are equal. So please, please know that for the test. There's some multiple choice questions on that. Now, this phantom profit is temporary, right? Because of how does finished goods inventory work? When I sell the units, right? What expense account does it go to? On the income statement, it goes to what? Yeah, yeah. After finished goods, it goes to cost of goods sold. Right? So eventually that cost, that $3,250 is eventually going to come out when we sell those units eventually. Those, how many units? These 1,300 are going to be pushing through. That's why when our sale units are greater than produced, the variable will generate more income because under the absorption then, right, a lot of that's coming out of inventory. And that's what brings down our profit. So hopefully that kind of makes sense. You're not going to be tested on phantom profits, guys. You're not going to be tested on figuring out the amount of phantom profits. All you need to know is how do you get the absorption profit? How do you get the variable profit? That's your goal here. And the key is knowing what expense, right, is different. How we treat that differently. One is inventoried, one is not, right, between the two statements. I just like talking about this. I think this is fun. I tell you, my boss would always say, well, how do we do this month? Or what is our income? I always would say, well, what do you want it to be? Right? You as accountants can really influence the income statement. But what do we have to follow? GAAP, right? We have no choice. If that shipment is sitting on the dock, is that considered a sale at your manufacturing facility? If it's sitting at the dock, it could be, right?
Yeah, it could be.
It
Like
could
the
be sold
exchange.
at the dock, right?
Yep.
FOB shipping point
Changes, yeah.
or FOB destination. Where does legal title transfer? I'm not intermediate. Why am I talking about intermediate?
Yeah.
Shame on me. That's Judy's gig. But we as accountants can really say, well, it's so close to being shipped. Why would I want to record the sale this month and maybe not next month?
Make our numbers look better.
Make our numbers look better. Is it so easy? Is it not? Or we might get a bill. This is where the ethics come in, right? As accountants. I may get a huge utility bill. Well, why don't I just put it in next week when it's a new month rather than this month? So easy to do in software, right? Utility bill is due March 9th, 10th. Let's just put it in March 1st. Happens all the time, and you will be in that seat if you're in that management position making those decisions. But remember, you've got to follow GAAP. And it's your ethical responsibility that you follow the GAAP rules. What's the main thing in accounting? Consistency. You have to be consistent every month. You cannot waver even if you're getting a lot of pressure from your boss. Or who's the bigger pressure? Well, that's your boss. Yeah.
The government, IRS.
Not so much the IRS. I'm not too, they don't, unless you get audited, I'm not too scared about them. It's your bank. Your bank is your most important person that you have to keep happy. Why?
The loan you're taking out.
In most cases, you will have a loan, and there's a covenant on that loan that you hit certain management targets. So it's a lot of pressure on you to do it, and do it well, and do it well every month. So keep that in mind. All right, we'll stop here. The rest of the class is yours to work on your CNOW assignments. We will practice what we've learned today on Wednesday, which is only 2 hours, so we're going to be flying through it. And then our test will be then on Monday next week. You can stay here if you wish. If you want to study intermediate here, you can certainly do that as well.